And welcome to the soothing vocals of Leonard Cohen.
Leonard Cohen, yes.
Yeah. We'll listen to this for just a second.
Yeah, you can have
Good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor. The rich get rich. That's how it goes.
Sing along, everyone. Everybody knows. So, welcome everyone to another episode of Real Talk. I'm Adam,
Casey?
and we're diving into, you said, one of your favorite films of all time. Or was it of all time?
Yeah, well, I
Okay.
could say of all time, even though it's been a while.
Okay.
But it's old enough, it was impactful at a young age. I imagine. Younger,
Okay.
a good time.
Yes. So the movie we're talking about is the cult classic Pump Up the Volume. But before we dive in, please go to our social media pages, which is the Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube, The Other People Show. And we're going to very soon launch a TikTok.
Yes.
So that's up and coming.
Yes, some reels, some shorts.
And a lot of fun and exciting news that I think we might tell at the end of the show.
I think you wait.
Yeah.
Too.
It's
I
gonna be
vote yes on that as well.
You've got to listen to the show in order to get the
exciting
special,
news at the end.
exactly.
Yeah, agreed.
And we hope everyone will be as excited as we are.
I hope so too.
Yeah. We know Stacy is, right, Stacy?
Everybody, yes, excited.
You heard
Everybody in the studio is thrilled.
if we had the applause button, I would push it.
We'll have to make it ourselves. There we go.
So
Oh, we're clapping early. We're getting them psyched up
Exactly.
too early.
it's true. So
We've got an hour to go, guys, before we tell you.
Yeah, we do want them to watch, so please go to
Yes.
the YouTube page and check it out on there. It's a better experience on there. Not only do you get to see our smiling faces, you get to hear the audio that we're listening to as we're talking.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the Facebook audience doesn't get to hear that right
No,
now.
that is a shame. Well, and one thing about the YouTube too, honestly, is we enjoy doing this, and by watching it, the YouTube stream, because it is monetized, you help support the show too. So, by all means, check us out on YouTube. Absolutely.
Yes, and are you watching on Facebook there, Stacy, to make sure the feed is up?
Yeah, like we're
your
curious. Somebody tell us if we're both on the screen.
Yeah, we need to make sure.
Because
Looks like it is
on one of our
Yeah.
computers, it is. We're not both on the screen.
Yeah, for mine it looks like we are, so that's good news. So, you have a good week this past week?
Oh yeah, it's been fantastic. I usually have a good week.
Me too. Now,
I mean, life is good. I can't.
this will be honestly the first time that Casey and I have watched the movie together.
Yes, that is true.
It's never been done before.
But we did stay. I mean, we still didn't discuss it, and
No.
honestly, we didn't finish it too long before we started this either. I mean, it was about 9:00 ish, I guess, when we finished the movie. Maybe.
Yeah, not too. So it's fresh in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
You'd seen it before.
Yeah, and I'd seen it a lot, so I remembered most of the movie, honestly.
Right. And I had never seen it before.
Yeah, that blows my mind
Yeah.
that you've never seen that
So
movie.
I'm glad. It was one of those, and I'm sure you have a few, and I'm sure all the audience does too. Those movies that somehow have slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
And you're like, I meant to go back and watch that and this and this. And then over time, they kind of build up.
There's so many of them
And
that.
Pump Up the Volume was one of them. So I'm glad you chose that one.
Oh yeah, well I'm glad you enjoyed it because it's definitely a good one.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's dive right in. So we've got a high school student named Mark that runs a pirate radio station that causes an uproar when he speaks his mind and enthralls his fellow classmates.
Yes,
Would that pretty much sum up?
pretty much. Yeah,
I think so too.
That's a good synopsis.
So it's got Christian Slater, Samantha Mathis, and that's her introductory role. And it's got a lot of those actors and actresses like, oh, I know that person.
Yes.
I know that face.
Yes, and we didn't do very good at the time.
No.
Picking out who they were, but there's a lot of familiar.
yeah,
we
had-
are young.
Yeah,
at this
Seth
time.
Green popped up.
Yes, Seth Green. That's right.
And if Stacy wants to check, probably Kumar Was it Kumar
I
or
want
Harold?
to say
Harold.
it's the guy that played Harold.
It's Harold. Yeah, I think so.
Pretty sure it was him.
A young Harold, and
You know,
then
because he's also in was it the American Pie movies? Maybe one of them was in something like that.
he is in the American. He's in American.
One of them I want
The
to
first
say.
two.
Yeah, that's what
He's
I
in
was
the first
thinking.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. And then the other guy ran for, or he interned under Obama.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So he took off like 4 years. I think it was an internship, but he might have got a position. You know, I'm not sure, but
Sure.
he did work in the administration.
Well, Hollywood,
So,
Washington.
yeah.
or-
Interconnected.
yeah, sure.
So yeah, so it happened. So we've got starring Christian Slater, Samantha Mathis, who is also in another Christian Slater, John Travolta movie entitled Broken Arrow.
Oh, is she in that too?
She's the ranger.
Oh, when you first said another Christian Slater movie, I thought you were going to go with Gleaming the Cube.
Another one that I haven't seen.
Really, that's a good one. It's got a good storyline. He's a skater in that one.
And he's
skateboarder.
pretty. He was like, it seems like the late '80s, early '90s, against the, against the authority.
Kind of. But the irony of that is like when I was talking about us at work,
Right.
that we were going to do this movie, and I was talking about Christian Slater, and I work with a lot of young cats, and they didn't know who in the hell I was talking about.
Really?
Yeah, no, they had no clue. They had no clue, and I thought it was kind of funny because I was like, these same people, they would sing along with every '80s song
Right.
that came on, but they had no clue who Christian Slater was, and so I was trying to think of something recent that maybe, and I was kind of having a hard time.
Mr. Robot, maybe.
Oh, Mr. I didn't even think about Mr.
Maybe
Robot.
that's.
I can't believe I didn't think of Mr. Robot. I love that show.
Yeah, because you had mentioned it to me a couple times.
Several times, and he is a major character in
Yeah,
that
and
movie.
he's actually won an Emmy award for that show.
no, God, great series.
So
Man, if we could pound all 4 of those out in like a season.
is there
episode
are there
on it.
4 seasons of that?
4 seasons
Okay.
is what there is, yeah. All of them are available on Prime.
And I bet with that show, I've never watched it, but I bet they ended right when they should have, instead of milking the cow to get more.
Yeah, I mean, they could have probably stretched it a little bit longer.
Season
but
5 maybe?
But they did good with it. I mean, it was good. It didn't leave too many cliffhangers. They wrapped it up in a good way. But I can't believe I didn't think about it. But these guys, I had mentioned Mr. Robot before, but I don't think they've seen it. But what came to mind was the movie Cuffs.
Cuffs.
Where he actually plays a cop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Cuffs is another one
but
of
he
those.
it was an older Christian Slater at that point.
Yeah.
I can't remember who played opposite him. Like, seems like it was a young person. I can't remember.
In Cuffs?
Yeah, I could be wrong. Though.
Well,
I don't
there
remember. It's
is a
been a long
young let's see, what's her name? Mia
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, is her name Mia Jovovich?
Yeah, that's how I'd always said it.
Yeah, she's
It may or may not
she's
be.
young in that. And then Bruce Boxleitner is
Wow.
his brother, his older brother.
Just like grasping from the cinematic.
And Tony Goldwyn, if you know Tony Goldwyn, he played the Nemesis in Ghost,
Oh,
the one that has Patrick Swayze's
Yeah.
character killed.
yeah.
And he also plays the father that's in Last House on the Left remake. If you've
Oh,
ever seen that remake.
I have not.
And that's a brutal remake. A lot of people. I worked at the movie theater, so I was up in the projection booth, and I would often watch the movies from up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I could hear at the time there was still some 35 millimeter, so I could still hear the sound, but I would just turn the volume up, and it was fine. But I could see people in that movie. Certain movies I would look and see. I know people are going to leave. Let's see how many does.
Yeah.
And there's a brutal rape scene
Damn.
that lasts at least 8 to 10 minutes. Have you
Wow.
seen the movie? Last House on the Left? It's a remake, I think, of a 70s Wes Carpenter or Wes Craven movie. I think.
right.
I think. And it's brutal. And I was really surprised
Wow.
that it was released in cinemas and fairly
Yeah.
successful, to be honest.
Wow.
But he's his daughter is the one that gets raped, and he goes on, and gets revenge on these murderers
Wow.
in brutal ways. But yeah,
That sounds heavier than I want to.
so yeah, that went down a rabbit hole. But anyway,
Yeah, I sure did.
so the director was Alan Moyle. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Moyle, Moyle.
Moyle, yeah.
I don't know. Moyle. I don't know.
Moyle works.
But his only other very notable directing movie was Empire Records.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So
one.
he's done some episodic television,
Yeah.
but other than that, I couldn't find the budget of this movie.
Yeah.
I researched many different places that I often look, couldn't find it at all.
Huh.
I wouldn't imagine more than 8 to 10 million at most.
Yeah. Because like we discussed, it's pretty.
Nothing.
The locations aren't like huge variety.
Yeah, and a sequence at the end would be about the only.
Yeah, because it's pretty. There's not a lot of like high action,
Right.
Or, like explosions or no shit.
So it only made 11 million though.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. That's why it's considered a cult classic, now. You know, because it's definitely, which isn't. It's surprising because when you watch it, it's a really good movie.
It's relevant too.
It is it's like iconic '90s movie. I mean, it's like '90s packaged kind of.
Yeah.
It's like perfect.
Everything about it.
stereotype of the '90s.
So it had a 70. Although Rotten Tomatoes wasn't out at the time, all movies now have usually a current Rotten Tomatoes, 79% positive, and 84% positive on audience.
Yeah.
So this is one of the highest audience rated movies that we've watched.
Yeah,
84%.
yeah. Which makes sense because it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I find it interesting because like I was saying that it's like this iconic '90s movie, like describes the stereotype of the '90s in a box, but it came out in 1990.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like right at the beginning of the '90s. But as most '90s movies, this one is. I mean, there's so many. Like we had half mentioned again, like myself, I always view these movies if they could be basically re-released and how the context would stand up. And this is one of those that, I mean, again, the whole premise of the movie, the kind of stuff that's being put out there is very much the same kind of sentiment of society today.
Yeah.
Even almost to a worse degree, probably.
I would say so.
imagine now. Because these guys were, I mean, they were vandalizing stuff and, you know, throwing off fireworkers and like being all crazy.
Yeah.
We have school shootings now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The level of defacing things, like you said, the level of, I guess, protest against the authoritarian is much less severe back in Pump Up the Volume than it would be today.
And even then, even what's depicted in the movie, I don't really recall ever happening in my lifetime at any school.
Right.
I mean, actually, you know, something transpiring. I mean, it's extremely symbolic, the movie is. I mean, because it's all about using your voice, like finding your voice.
Yeah.
You know, and so you've got this main character, Mark, played by Christian Slater, who, behind the microphone, in the dark of night, basically, you know what I mean? It's whoever he wants to be.
That's when he's
happy, Harry
the
hard
quote.
on.
Yeah, that's when he's the quote. He's the superhero of.
He's
his
like
own,
the alpha
own
male,
story.
just speaking his mind. But when he's in the school, he's quiet.
His head's always down.
Yeah, it's just real. And so the movie, again, like when you reflect on it, it's absolutely insane because, you know, like I remember in the 90s, we were very much about, and the movie points it out, about like finding yourself, being yourself. It was a very inclusive time. It felt like, you know what I mean? We were dismantling labels kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And even like the dad in the movie is the old hippie dad. He was the activist in the 60s. He's now the superintendent of the school district that's all messed up.
Yeah.
And so it's this depiction basically of what actually, you know, transpired. We know historically, like the hippies basically became the establishment.
Yeah, became
That's
what
kind
they
of
were railing against.
Yeah, you know, because we're going to fix it from the inside out, like underestimating the sheer, like, it's a machine, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's going to chew you up. Or you either become part of it or you get spit out.
And
you
he's
know what I mean?
somebody that's become part of it.
Yeah, it's just ended up becoming part of
But
it.
his wife doesn't quite. His wife does point it out.
Yes, agreed.
But you can see he's not totally corporate. because he still has he still has a little bit later on in the film. You realize he still has those beliefs because he doesn't believe as if the school does.
Yes. Well, and of course it plays out. He doesn't know what's going on at this school.
He's in the dark because he's new. He's brand new.
He's new. They had just moved to this town and stuff. And Christian Slater's character is real, loner.
Yeah, because he really only speaks to a couple of until the end.
Yeah,
he only speaks to other than his parents and the teacher. Well, he says at one point, "I've not spoke to anyone today, except my teachers." And then even when he speaks to the what's the girl's name? What is her name? But whenever he speaks to her, that's where Stacy's supposed to come in. Just kidding.
Samantha Mathis.
Yeah.
Mathis's character.
I can't remember her name. But, she tries to speak to him, and one time he just walks off and doesn't say anything. Right?
Yeah. He's all nervous and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, that ends up being the love interest that develops. Nora.
Yeah. Thank you.
She's the love interest that kind of develops, but you pick up earlier on in the movie that it seems like Christian Slater's character is interested in the Richie preppy redhead.
Yeah.
But of course that doesn't, that's its own storyline plays out. But the movie is real. It captures the angst of, not even angst, but struggle maybe of high school, being a teenager, that are still extremely, extremely relevant. So there's the one guy.
Definitely.
It addresses suicide.
It's got a gay character that it addresses.
A gay and bullied, but you get the feeling that not only is it a gay character, but it was a gay character that basically, it's not direct, but you get the feeling that it's forcibly, I don't want to say raped, but he addresses, he's like, he didn't say anything. I just did whatever they wanted me to do.
And it cuts
these three jock guys.
Yeah.
Three of them. It started with the one guy, but then his two buddies came. So now you got three guys there, and
I think it's hinted at that it's what happened.
It's real, and so it addresses you see the beginning of where we're at right now in this movie.
Right.
You can see how the last, what would that be? 33 years now? Is that correct? 33 years since this movie came out.
Yeah.
That's insane, actually, now that I think about it. Oh, my gosh. We're old, guys. We're getting old.
No, it's crazy.
No, we're perfect age.
This is the perfect
We're
age.
Prime right now.
Prime age.
But so in the last 33 years, you can see how, it's the beginning of it. It is literally the beginning of, at this age, they're crying, everybody's miserable, everybody's depressed.
Yeah.
The environment is crap. Of course, we know in the 90s, of course, back then, that was Al Gore's big thing. So the environment's always been kind of that's a whole nother topic. But so it's all stuff that's still very much discussed, now. Teenage suicide is a thing, but it's even worse now because, this guy, he goes home and he spouts about it on the radio and everybody just listens.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. Of course, we know now bullying goes way beyond.
Yeah, way beyond
school. It follows you everywhere now.
Especially online.
It's in your pocket all the time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's a very different thing, which is surely why things have escalated to, and the whole movie is about, he's encouraging these people to find their voice. And I can remember the reason it impacted me so much was just the whole notion of what he was doing. I loved the idea because that's what got me interested in doing mass media when I was younger. Just the notion of putting your voice out there. Because as I've grown up, I've got a lot of ideas. I can run my mouth a lot. Right. You know what I mean? Ranter extraordinaire. And so I always liked the idea of radio, and pirate radio is just fascinating. It still captures my interest.
Which is basically what we do almost.
No, kind of. It feels like that. We jump in the station on Wednesday nights and we crank out a show. and we bounce. No,
At
it's cool.
10, well, a little after 10, but
Yeah, no, and I like that idea. I still like the idea because, like, even in that branch, as time went on, I got older. That interest went into like internet radio. Of course, I never really did anything with it, but even the speaking your mind, the speaking truth to power, I did that for a long time, and that's its own notion. But it's still it's present in the movie, and it's still one of those things that's still very much present now. The exact same stuff. I mean, you could almost put this movie out verbatim.
yeah.
Almost, and this dialogue's going to apply. Everything's going to apply. It's the same.
And
But
the
it
only thing
makes you
that's
want-
changed is instead of radio like it is in the film, is you've got YouTube
It's
now,
what we're
you've
doing
got
right now.
Twitter, you've got streaming.
Yeah, which was the one thing we had mentioned after we finished the movie was because the movie goes out with him talking about, steal the air. Is
Yeah.
what he says. It's one of the
And then all
taglines
these
of
little
the movie.
pirate radio stations start popping
Right,
up.
and so fast forward, from 1990 when this came out to 2023.
And
now,
then all these people putting
now
out
we
their
have
YouTube channels,
we
Spotify
have
channels.
TikTok, we have all that.
Yep.
Like everybody's voice is being heard. That almost to the point that it's almost too noisy.
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it
Yeah.
becomes this thing that's like, everybody finds your voice, find your voice. It's one thing when everybody's just listening, but of course what we got to is like everybody's responding now
Yeah.
too. And so now we have things like Facebook that have become this, and it's weird, because when I was younger and growing up, just into the last few years, I was very much of an activist mindset. I would dig for the truth, and I was all about it.
Right.
I was a truth seeker or whatever. But I have to be honest, and that's what I did all the time. But I really wasn't happy, and none of these people are happy. He's not. I mean, he seems empowered doing it. I guess maybe he by the end you see he talks about healing, and whatever. But it's not because he's running his mouth. He attaches it to the chick. You know what I mean? So
Well, see, I even wondered partly if he doesn't realize that he's starting a quote revolution.
not when he's doing it. No,
No.
because at the beginning it's kind of like he's talking to a couple of people.
Yeah, he's like the 3 listeners I'm talking to. So let's get into this a little bit because this is going to be fun. So as we both noticed, Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis, their chemistry was real
Yes. Yeah.
because they were in the midst of a year-long relationship during this movie.
Yeah.
So she was 20, he was 19.
It definitely comes across. You
Yeah.
see 19-year-old
Yeah.
Christian Slater. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's true, and it's weird, seeing, watching Christian Slater's career, and then going back and watching him as one of his first roles.
Yeah.
That I never had seen, and his acting range then was just as good as I'd seen.
No,
it.
it really is because there is almost a manic swing between Mark and Happy Harry Hardon.
Yeah,
They are two distinctly different characters.
Yes, they are.
He makes that swing real quick.
yeah,
Of course, the Happy Harry Hardon character, like that attitude or whatever, seems to exist within that house.
yeah.
Because he even kind of he's mouthy with his folks, you know what I mean?
And then he has that golf club, and he's acting like
yeah,
this swing.
yeah.
And but when he's switching, like you were talking about, he even has glasses on.
Yeah.
Slumps down. He reminded me to a lesser extent his version of a Clark Kent type character.
Sure.
He's
Turn into Superman.
yeah.
No, I can see that.
And his when he's
Illusion, for sure.
hard on Harry is that's when he's the Superman.
Yeah.
And is able to be himself.
Yep.
Hit things. He's taking his shirt off, yelling, singing, rapping.
Yeah, well, we have
and he doesn't even
a
speak.
number of other things that we hadn't even alluded to yet.
Yeah.
That's a big part of his shtick.
Exactly. Let's see. Christian Slater became ill due to all the cigarettes that he had to smoke during filming.
Wow.
And I was watching. I'd read that beforehand, so when I went in, I was watching for that. I didn't really see him smoke all that many.
No. Well, I had. Now
No.
that you mentioned that, it doesn't seem like it.
No.
But there's ashtrays full of butts and.
So he may have done it. It could have ended up on the cutting room floor.
no, that's what I was gonna say. It could have been like multiple takes.
Yeah. So I guess I could see, especially if you're not a smoker.
Yeah. Did he?
He did? Okay. Samantha Mathis dyed her normally blonde hair black for the role. And she's been in a couple of other movies. What was the when cowgirls get the blues? A Thing Called Love. Okay, she had blonde hair, and I think she had reddish hair in the John Travolta movie, Broken Arrow. Did Did you watch
I've
it?
seen Broken Arrow.
I think she has like
It's been a minute.
reddish brown hair.
Yeah,
in
I
that
didn't
one.
realize it was the same same woman.
Now, what about the theme song to Mark's radio show? Now,
Yeah,
I've wondered. It's curious as a
good one, I
theme
like it.
song, and I thought, how did this character? That's not the theme song that it was supposed to be. Sorry about that. But how did his character? That just seemed like an odd theme song to have.
Yeah, which one popped up? Was that the Concrete Blonde version?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good version too, though. I've carried that song with me throughout my life. For some reason, it's on a playlist I listen to at work now.
Okay.
I still hear it.
So the
Concrete
song we
Blonde.
opened up the show to is actually Mark's show's title.
Yeah.
Like the theme song to his show.
Yeah, everybody knows Leonard Cohen.
Excuse me. Does his show actually have a title? Does it have a name?
No, he just comes on the air because he kind of comes and goes.
flips
The on
when he
switch
wants
and
to
on
go.
air. Boom. He's
Yeah, but this is Leonard Cohen, who also has a very prominent song in Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
As we were talking about earlier.
yeah.
So that was
Which
kinda
is
cool.
pretty much kind of seems like it was kind of the title song in that one too.
Yeah, I think so.
It pops up throughout it.
And
That's a good one.
we have the film was nominated for 4 independent awards, but it failed to win any. And also the next fact, the AI thing earlier contradicted this fact, so I don't know if this is true.
Well, we'll go with yours.
But the research that I did showed that the movie was set in Phoenix, Arizona, a town outside of Phoenix, but it was actually shot in California.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The chat GBT could have. I mean, because what it spit back was that it was filmed in Arizona.
Okay.
But so I mean, whatever.
So that's up for debate, but we try to give you the facts that we can find.
Yeah.
So you know.
We'll save the AI for that's a whole nother
Yes.
discussion.
So what did you think about the plot and the story? We covered a little bit early on.
I like it. Listen, I still like it. You know what I mean? I would still encourage people to speak truth to power. You know, I'm myself like, I don't know. Well, because honestly, more than the speak truth to power, it's what he says towards the end there. He's not talking about speaking truth to power. He's talking about creating.
Yeah.
Go out and create. Find your voice and go create something, you know? And of course, what pops up is all these little radio stations as it, you know, they start all intermingling. But it's still the point, and it's still extremely valid. And I would encourage everybody to do that. You know, find your voice, go create something.
And I do
You know
think
what I mean?
I think I might be wrong, but I think that I'm not saying that would solve everyone's problems, but I don't think a lot of people in today's world, they might post their pictures on Snapchat or Instagram,
Right.
but how many actually create something?
No, right.
You know, not how many like, you know, go on there and like critique another video, which nothing's wrong with, but actually
right.
go out there and create.
Yeah. Well,
know?
I mean, we live in a society. I mean, we've been heavily manipulated and kind of directed on. You know, some of us got this path of we go work a job, we pay the bills, we do all this and that, and then there's others that take this entrepreneurial track.
Yeah.
That's more about creating stuff. But I think through just society, I've kind of ripped the creativeness out of us.
I think so too.
I mean, to where, well, who has time to create? I mean, you either got work, you got kids, you get worried about paying the bills. The price of food is constantly going up or down.
Right.
Or gas is this, or gas is that.
Life problems.
You know,
Health.
now people are worrying, you know, they throw plenty I mean, we're just bombarded with fear and stress.
And things taking our time.
Yeah, and taking our time. And that's another thing is what we choose to do.
See, I was thinking about that too.
Time.
All the time that's, quote, you know, obviously what's wasted, I think, could not be wasted to you or Stacy. But that being said,
sure.
everyone wastes a certain amount of time. But I try to, you know, make my life where it's basically one event after another. Like I did work, watched the movie, did the show, go
Yeah.
home, because I won't be able to post edit tomorrow, so I'm going to edit tonight's show
Right.
tonight.
So it's going to be a long night.
So, you know, do that. So it's, you know, I try to utilize all time efficiently. And I think if people were able to do that, they might be able to find a way to fit creativity in if they want.
Sure, no, sure.
Painting, coloring, writing,
Yeah.
recording poetry,
Yeah,
whatever it could
yeah.
be. You know, it could be sewing. It could be
Anything.
yeah,
anything. And
An
it's
outlet.
about breaking habits because like we fall into these patterns. Sure, I mean it's what it is. It's what happens. Again, we've been kind of directed,
programmed to-
herded, if you will, programmed.
Herded, yeah.
Programs even better. I mean, that's why it's TV programming.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it stands to reason, but if we get so focused and mired in this, like where we're at, and even like with this with activism and the rallying against the system, and it's like all based in just anger at the. It's not creating
Right.
anything. You're just still kind of stuck in this ball here, feeding this back and forth.
Right.
When I think we'd probably be far better served if we like step out of it. Like there's this Buckminster Fuller quote, and I'm going to heavily paraphrase it, but it's basically like you don't defeat the old, by like fighting against, like you create something that makes it obsolete.
Right.
You don't defeat the current system by fighting against it. You create something that makes the current obsolete.
Right.
So you create.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I really think the future is probably very much about like creation. And
Yeah,
I think
totally
we'll probably
agree.
be a much healthier society if we could kind of shift back to that. You know what I mean?
think so too.
But people are going to have to find a way, and it's almost to bring the AI back into it but why not? Because, I mean, that's a very real thing. Mm-hmm. And people are probably in the future going to have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have a job anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just the reality. That's a whole topic for another conversation, but I don't need to get into it here. But it's a very interesting one.
Yeah.
That probably, instead of like raising hell about Washington and who's going to be president, we should probably discuss like where AI is going to take us, because things like that GPT you mentioned,
Yeah.
they just gave, it's completely open to the public. I mean, this is like this super powerful AI that they just let loose on the world.
Yeah.
So everybody can use it, and it's insane.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better and better and better and
as
better.
time goes
and so,
on.
like, there's a lot of fear mongering, and so the potential of the future is there, I suppose, but we're not there right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, take a deep breath, and if that's the potential reality, then we should probably discuss what we're going to do as people start. Because it's starting with creatives. It's
Yeah.
not going.
Yeah.
It's at the top. It's not
Well-
at the bottom like labor force.
It's funny how often, like, in the movie, well, one thing that we were talking about, like, everyone's programmed, like I forget the character, the girl that puts all of her like trophies and everything in
Yeah.
the microwave. She was programmed. Well, even Mark was to a certain extent, because he did say at one point, "Hey, you all, the agreement was if I get good grades, you all will stay off my back."
Yeah, just leave me alone.
And leave me alone. And they've, for the most part, have seemed to agree to that,
Yeah.
because they don't know he's doing the radio show
Yeah.
at all, and they don't really seem to give him much grief. How's he spending his time? Not
Right.
really. They care, but they're also wrapped up. All right, son. Well, we're going to be back at 11.
Yeah.
Going their way.
Well, and they're still wanting him to do like
Sports
their
and school,
thing,
yeah.
and what they think he should do. You know what I mean?
Because his dad's like, well, there's got to be. That's a great school. There's got to be some club that you would want
Yeah.
to belong to.
And he's like, it's not that great of a school. And what comes out, we hadn't mentioned yet, at this school is it's got these great scores. And it's got the highest SAT scores and all this and blah, 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 blah. But you find out the principal and the guy, like the faculty is expelling kids. Like any kids, they have low grades,
SAT
low
score.
scores, whatever. They're your problem children, if you will. They're just getting them out of, they're taking them off the rolls,
And they said later on near the end, you learn that they've kicked out or suspended or expelled 20 students
Yeah.
in the first 30 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And which is a hell of a lot.
A whole lot. And of course, in the real world, if that was happening, there would probably be some.
Some kind of investigation.
No, but it's
What do you
great. It's
think?
great. And just like the whole premise of the movie, like it was very exciting to me when I was younger. But even at the time, like it was the 90s, against the times weren't bad.
Right.
We've mentioned this multiple times on the show because we do a lot of 90s stuff. For the most part, times were good
Yeah.
in the 90s. But everything that this show, the premise of it set up, totally came to pass.
And I'm really
in a very
surprised. This is
crazy
another
way.
one where I'm surprised there's not been a reboot or a remake of this. Just like Death Becomes Her, because
Yeah.
like you said, this is relevant today,
Easily.
and you can.
They totally could.
Yeah,
Too,
it really could. And I'm really surprised that they hadn't.
because they could totally make it more current. Keep the same, just make the music current.
Yeah,
Well, not even. Well, I guess it'd be current. The music in this movie is
it's a great
just
soundtrack.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
It's one of the best soundtracks we've done.
I think
of
so,
course,
too.
it's one of the first ones that had it was solid. It wasn't
Mainly scored
music. No,
Yeah.
right. It was like track songs,
Yeah.
like the Beastie Boys. You hear the Pixies. You hear
Because the
Leonard
90s
Cohen, you hear
was the
Conquered Line.
decade that had the high, 80s, 70s, and 80s too, but 90s, I think more soundtrack albums sold than in the previous
Oh well, I'm
decades.
sure. Well, because
Because
a
you got
lot-
like Titanic, and that sold a lot with Celine Dion songs.
Well, sure. Well, even if you keep, stay in that, 90s, you had a lot of grunge stuff. So, I would imagine the soundtrack for the movie Singles probably
Set It
sold
Off
a lot.
was a big one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so all this, yeah. That was a great era.
It was.
I mean, it still really was.
Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. So what about the characters? Did you have any? What did you think about the characters?
I mean, they're all good.
I
I
think-
mean, Christian Slater's character is pretty inspiring. I mean, Happy Harry Hard-On will really get you, pumped up, just like... I
Well,
mean,
like you
it's-
mentioned, the
it's very,
contrast between Happy Harry Hard-On and Mark is like day and night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what it illustrates too, and what came to pass too, is he became a different person behind the microphone.
Yeah.
More empowered. People didn't see him, and we've seen the same thing played out on social media. It's just to say you're on the other side of a screen now. People are saying stuff they would never say.
Yeah.
To somebody's face.
Yeah. You could be
You know what I
whoever
mean?
you want to be behind the
Whoever
screen.
you want to be. on
Like,
the
in
other
all
side.
honesty, we can be and say virtually anything we want to, on behind these microphones
Yeah.
that we're not empowered or feel that we could say in quote real life.
No, right.
And that's the
And well, we even
empowerment.
have the dynamic. I don't know. The dynamic here could even be different if we weren't streaming a live feed of this. I mean, I don't know.
True, it is.
Because for us at our time and age now, it's hard to imagine that we would not be streaming live video of this broadcast.
Yeah.
But at that time, of course, this was unheard of.
Yeah. And can
You
you,
know what I mean?
imagine though, like he's he for the audience, he's got a pretty like a cult following at his school.
At his school.
And
yeah.
they pass around tapes, recording
Yeah, which
cassette
is another
tapes.
epic 90s,
Yeah. And
part
they
of that
utilize that a lot.
a lot. Passing tapes around, bootleg cassettes.
No, I
'Cause they
never
record them. I remember doing that so much.
No, I wasn't in high school in 1990. I was later part of the 90s, but I don't remember in high school having that many boom boxes around though. Did you?
I remember sitting there with the cassettes. Now I can't remember how deep into the 90s that was, but we listened to. I mean, cassettes were a thing for quite some time. Well, after I graduated, I was still
Yeah.
jamming cassettes. Now, CD players may have been out, and I was just I don't know.
Because I did have a
Nostalgic.
Sony. What was it called? Like a Discman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the little ones that had the hard mini discs that were like.
I remember seeing
And when
those.
Sony was using the little alien as their marketing
Yeah, I forgot about that.
thing, the little alien dude.
I
Yeah.
totally forgotten about that.
I remember that, the little Sony Discman. That's what it was.
And it always had that anti anti skip button. Or
Yeah.
Like if it so it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything.
No.
It did nothing. If
No,
you
no.
were walking, you had to hold it. Like
Yeah.
if you barely moved, it would skip. That
Man, well,
button
see,
did
I had
nothing.
this thing that it was like they were like little, 3.5-inch floppies, man, or not floppies because they weren't floppy
Right.
at that point.
But the little mini-
the
the
hard
little-
ones may have been a little bit smaller, but yeah, and it was like I can remember you would stick it in the computer, load it up with songs, pop it in the played MP3, basically
Yeah.
like an MP3 player at the time. But of course, at that time, it was like, hell yeah, it's like
I know, it was
top
great.
of the line. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I remember just recording, songs off the
Jeez,
radio.
How time has changed just in our lifetime when I think about it sometimes. But it's like I've mentioned before, like I grew up with computers around the house because my
Right.
dad, he built computers before home computers were a thing. It seems like we mentioned this before. But even in that time, from Atari 64 like with Dig Dug,
Yeah.
Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong. You know what I mean? To now speaking of, now I could use ChatGPT because it can write code, and I can probably use the AI to write like my own ripoff of Donkey
that's
Kong.
right.
Well, I mean that's extensive because I'm not,
Right.
I'm not tech savvy enough to do that. But it can totally do
The
that.
possibilities there. How-to
No.
show.
No, just go to ChatGPT and ask it.
We're gonna ditch next week's movie, and then we're also gonna dive into the old Super Mario Brothers movie.
Right.
Since the new one comes out
plan.
this weekend. Yeah. I actually
but-
did see the original Super Mario's brother movie in the movie theater.
Did you?
When I was
Wow.
a kid. Yeah. Now I've only seen it once, and I do remember thinking, this has nothing. I don't remember having anything really to do with the game, other than the people.
The
the
character
the
names.
same names. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's their last name? Mario? The Mario brothers. So Mario's name is Mario?
Oh, good question.
I mean,
Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. So I mean, that's what it would suggest.
yeah. So they
Luigi,
didn't really
Mario,
think that.
Mario. They did. Wow.
Think it all the way through.
Questions to ponder. See, you never know what you're getting here.
You don't.
That's what makes this show great.
It's a smorgasbord, is what it is, of useless facts that you'll be in a trivia game one day. And
That's
you'll be
right.
Like,
That's right.
you'll be like, oh, I
Yeah,
know
we-
where Tim Allen's from, Denver, and then you got the answer.
You'll listen, man. With the trivia, I don't know. Maybe we set the trivia up because if they have to play cinema trivia. If you have to play cinema trivia against Adam, you're screwed. You don't have a chance, man. Because I don't know. There's this weird, like cinematic, like I don't know what even to call it. Quantum sphere of cinema knowledge.
I don't
that
even
just like
I don't even know.
pull it out of the ether. You don't even.
When I was younger, I used to get this magazine, Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah.
And obviously it came in weekly from like the first episode. The first issue I had was for when the movie Waterworld came out. Kevin Costner was on the front of it. And you've never seen?
Never.
You know what? Jake and I did an episode on Waterworld,
Yeah.
and it's not great, but
That's
it's
what
a
I heard.
fun action adventure movie.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
one of my favorite action adventure movies.
Okay. Well.
Just one reason, because everything in it is practical effects.
Wow.
There's only one CGI thing in it.
Wow.
And that's one reason it costs so much, because it was they made this little island that they have of, I guess, refugees and people at sea. This little sea island, made it from scratch. $5 million, and a hurricane ripped it to shreds, and they had to rebuild it.
Wow.
Kevin Costner's
Isn't it crazy what they do for movies sometimes?
his jet ski ran out of fuel, and he was lost at sea for a day,
Wow.
and no one could find him. So a lot of things that
Wow.
at the time I remember thinking, how did this cost so much money? It just looks like everyday real things.
Yeah.
That's why it costs so much money.
Yeah.
And you can see it on screen.
crazy.
So it's not a great movie. It's a little bit generic, but it's one of my favorite action
still
adventure
good,
movies
yeah.
just because of that reason. But that's another
another show.
movie. Yeah. So I like the characters as well. I think they were thought out, and I like the way that they cut to some of Mark's listeners.
Oh yeah.
Because you've
throughout
got that
the
one
movie.
little chubby kid that ends up selling the cassettes.
Yeah, the bootlegger, the entrepreneur.
You've got the kid that does, spoiler alert, commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then you've got obviously you've got the group of people that's in the field,
Field.
the
looks like they're outside, like where the football field.
yeah,
Would be at, maybe.
you got like the Pauly Shore biodome.
Yeah, that we're still not sure if he's related. That dude totally looked like Pauly Shore.
Yeah. I need to tweet him and see if he recognizes that guy.
You know, like it seems like
Hey, Trey.
there was one character that they kept showing, dark-headed guy. He was like just smiling a lot. Oh wait, you know what? See, I'm trying to remember how he tied in.
Yeah.
because it, like they had the chubby kid, like you said, they kept showing that bootleg the stuff. They kept showing the one guy that ends up killing himself,
And then
they showed the guy that ends up telling the gay jock story,
yeah.
the blonde-headed guy.
And then that girl, what's her name? Is it Celeste? Is that her name? The one that puts the stuff in the microwave? Oh, I was
Paige.
completely wrong on that.
Yeah,
Paige.
yeah.
But,
And so, but there was this one they kept showing. I can't remember what. I'm not sure what. Well, I don't know. They showed a lot of people because
Yeah,
he was getting mail coming into a PO box.
that's
People
true
were writing
too.
in.
And I did like the fact that I felt anyway as you were watching, you knew that his show was getting more popular because it was showing more people.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he seemed to have. I think you touched on it earlier. You could see the confidence of Hard on Harry grow as the movie went on.
Oh yeah,
And actually, you see Mark's character as Mark grow as well.
Yeah.
And because at the end, I would guarantee you that he would never think that he would be where he is
Yeah.
at the start of the film, where he ends up at the end.
No. Well, you know,
I mean, he's leading a quote unquote rebellion.
a
I mean,
rebellion. That's totally what he's doing.
you've got helicopters chasing you.
Yeah, FCC's in town. He's totally sparked a rebellion. But at the one point the parents talk about, well, back east, New York, you had friends. You were socially did this and that. So he's hating that they moved.
Right.
So you got to keep in mind that's probably part of his feelings. But he's acting like he's all nervous. But when Nora goes to do something, he's like, no. And she's like, oh, so you can talk.
Oh,
when you want to. He's like, yeah.
She's like trying to take his pants off or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's like, so you can talk when you want to. And he's like, yeah. And then in the end, he has no problem going out there. Just, of course, it's heightened at that point.
Yeah.
But then you're kind of wondering, it's like, so is he really that I can't talk to people?
Right. Like what was holding him back like that?
Or is he just because he's all bummed out, depressed because he's in it?
Right. That really wasn't clear why.
No.
Why? An interesting point that I should have brought up in the facts is so it was originally written as Mark was driving the vehicle, the Jeep at the end, talking. The reason that they changed it is Christian Slater's license was suspended during that time, so they switched it and had her drive and him in a passenger seat, talking on the radio. So
even on a movie set, they would.
They wouldn't. Now I don't. That caught me by surprise.
Yeah, that seems
like,
kind of crazy.
You're on a movie set. Who would really know?
Why would it matter? Yeah.
I mean, you got a fake helicopter, but you're worrying about me not having a license.
I know, right? Exactly. This is a movie about rebellion.
Yeah.
I should totally be driving without the license. That's
but yeah,
that's an interesting little fact.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite scene or a least favorite scene?
I don't know. I can't say I have a least favorite scene. Any of the least favorite scenes are probably anything to do with the teachers that they're just kind of,
Now, the teachers did all look very nerdy,
like dated.
Yeah,
even
very
more dated than the students.
Like it looked like maybe the students were maybe from the 90s, but the teachers were leftovers from the 80s.
Yeah,
or something,
Yeah, like totally.
Because even with the big glasses,
and the floral pattern stuff, and no, it wasn't good. But
I didn't have a least favorite scene. The only thing, it was weird, and I understand why they did it. The opening credits look like, to me anyway, that they were trying to emulate, I guess they do it later in the film, but graffiti, like they were spray painting.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a cool opening.
It was kind of like a sequence. Foreshadowing, you know.
And I was thinking when we were watching it, I was like, this is something, again, you could do this now, and it would be cool.
Yeah.
Still that whole kind of style. And it would be really easy now because, again, you can make movies like we just watched practically with cell phones.
Yeah. You could literally make the movie. We can make that movie minus the helicopter but I'm sure we could probably honestly rent a helicopter.
I mean,
You know,
you could. I mean, you could.
We could really go over there and rent one of those 5-minute rides. and just-
Kickstarter coming next
just-
month
yeah.
on this plan, by the way.
Well, not really.
No, not really.
Well, he's not really playing.
No,
It might
but
not
it's-
come next month, but
not
it's
next
coming.
month. That's certainly an idea. Yeah,
coming.
for sure.
But that's what we would do. We would just hire
Thanks for that idea.
that 15-minute ride and then film it in such a way
Oh, we get footage from the helicopter
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Okay, now we're
so
making it.
we could do it.
Shh,
Yeah.
we could tell
We
this
got
idea to everybody.
we got cheap ways to do
yeah,
things.
like well, but I mean, the reality is the means. Again, it even ties back to the means by which they had to go to accomplish this. You know, with the broadcast, with the pirate radio, is not. It's not like that anymore.
Right.
Like if you have a cell phone, you can do what happened in this movie.
Yeah, you can go live.
I mean, let's be clear. I mean, like things like the Arab Spring and all these revolutions that sparked up, it was directly, social media that did it. So, well, it attributed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, same thing, just times everybody on the planet practically, except those cats that live in, tribal jungles.
Yeah.
That honestly, listen, I was watching this thing on YouTube one time, not that long ago, and they were finding there's like this hidden cannabis place, forest or whatever. They were in like, I don't even like Uruguay, somewhere South America, like way up in the mountains or something. These villages where it was like streams, right? It was crazy. But those cats had cell phones. They had cell
Really?
phones in it. Oh yeah,
Wow.
man. And they wouldn't. It was like they had the Outsiders there. I want to say it was something that was produced by Vice, maybe might have been up in there, and they wouldn't like take the money from the people. Like you had to throw the money on the ground, and they would pick the money up from the ground. But like they had cell phones
Wow.
in these villages, and I was just like,
It's crazy.
is that not insane? And so when you think about the fact that this technology, I was amazed when I watched this back then. I was like, oh my God, I want that equipment. I want to do I want some ham radio equipment.
Yeah.
Right up until I moved up here and I live up on this mountain. I'm like, I just want an analog tower up here. I want to be able to broadcast from up here. It's great. But now again, it's just like, I can open Facebook and hit live,
And there you go.
and there I am, and
Yeah.
that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so everybody's got the means to do that. Everybody has a voice now. What are you saying with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I don't know if most people are saying anything. I mean, obviously, we're speaking to a certain crowd, the movie loving crowd, and things like
Sure.
that. And I think that we're slightly entertaining and such.
Sure.
But how many people aren't really saying anything?
No, well, I mean,
and
because
then there's a lot of people that are putting out really good product too.
no, sure,
And I think that's what maybe part of the message was, that like what like we were talking, like what the kids were doing in that scenario, spray graffiti,
yeah,
they weren't really doing anything all that bad. They just
No.
didn't have an outlet,
right,
and so that's what they chose to do.
Right. right.
He just happened to have that outlet, but like you
His
said,
was
now
a ham radio. That was his.
everybody
outlet.
has that outlet.
Everybody's got it.
I mean, a phone, like you said, people in the jungle. I mean, I've seen and you all probably have too, the poorest looking person whip out a brand new iPhone.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, huh?
yeah.
I'm like, yours is newer than mine.
No, and it's
You know?
insane. Well, no, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That could be a whole topic.
So everybody, for the
discussion,
most
too.
part, does have access to show their voice. So
But is that a good thing though?
I
mean,
question that sometimes.
I do too, because the flip side of that is, this character was, a force for positive change.
Yeah.
But there's flip side to that too, and those people have a voice with an audience.
Yeah.
As well. So
I guess it depends on how you use that voice.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
and that was the thing with Christian Slater's character, and he mentioned is he didn't realize the power that he had. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so people, if you have a voice, and especially, if you're gaining an audience, you should probably be responsible.
Well, wasn't one of the first things he learned about how, that the FCC was even onto him was when he was walking, and then he looks down at the newspaper
Yep.
on the lawn?
Yeah, he saw that. Yeah.
And so that was, he really had no clue that the impact I mean,
was
I'm
having-
sure he saw, the cassette tapes that were at school.
That's how he started finding out, hearing it.
But when it gets to the paper, you're like, wow. Especially then. I mean, when you're on the front page of the paper in 1990, you're
Yeah, well, and what happens too is he's not even.
Yeah.
It's not even so much towards. It's till the end that he's really.
embracing it.
Yeah, or encouraging them to just really. It takes on its own organic thing because he doesn't even again realize. He's not encouraging them to go hijack the PA system and plug the show in. You know what I mean? He's not encouraging them to do any of that.
No.
And of course, the dynamic changes with the suicide aspect, and so the whole kind of tone kind of takes a turn, but then it swings in full force towards the end of no, go crazy. You know what I mean? And
challenge the establishment.
Challenge the establishment. Yeah. That's keeping them like just kind of.
Well, and they literally the establishment, which is the school in this case, are holding the students down because they're expelling students.
Right.
That instead of expelling these students, why don't you try to help these students?
Yeah, right.
Why don't you try to give them the education that they need instead of kicking them out?
Right.
Which is making them become, quote, losers, as the principal says at one time.
Yeah, like
these are they're just losers.
Yeah.
And they're making these kids that way because they're not reaching out, helping.
Yes, removing their right to an education.
Exactly.
Because remember, there's that one scene with the blonde-head, Pauly Shore looking guy. He's wanting to go hang something up on the thing. He's got the sign that says, "I have a right to an education."
Yeah.
Of course, you don't see that after the fact, and the teacher like punches him, and there's this altercation.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
The teacher that punched him, he was one of those. Hey, I know that face. Guys.
Yeah.
And I've seen him play that.
Well,
kind
you
of a
mentioned
role.
that the guy from Teen Wolf. Oh, that was the FCC guy.
Yeah, that was his
dad
Michael
from Teen
J.
Wolf.
Yep, the dad. Now, what about you mentioned? We mentioned the music more of the score than in this film, but the music was great. I mean,
No, it's good.
you mentioned. So this is the Concrete Blondes, and it's the same
Concrete
version
Blonde,
of the same song.
Yeah.
So we'll check that
Yeah,
out.
same song for sure.
Okay, we'll check that one out because I don't really know that one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Concrete Blonde was real big back in the 90s. Like I remember Concrete Blonde a lot. He had an album called Bloodletting. It was real good. And Joey was a real big song. Yeah, for that was the title track was Bloodletting, the vampire song. And I want to say this chick, the singer is tied in with some other singer. I can't remember her name at the moment. But at any rate, they were big back in the 90s. I mean, it's good 90s stuff. Again, and like the Pixies were good.
It's so weird. I don't know this band. I've never heard of this band.
Really? Yeah,
But I do like this song. I like this. I'm guessing the Leonard Cohen's the original one.
I think so, yeah.
But I do like this cover of it.
Yeah, it's a good cover.
That's pretty cool. You've also got the Pixies you mentioned.
Yeah, Wave of Mutilation.
Sonic
Yeah,
Youth,
Doolittle's good.
Soundgarden. I think Stacy mentioned Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Um,
Beastie Boys, but it's a super obscure Beastie Boys song. I mean, it's not.
is it anywhere to be found? You think I can find it on YouTube?
Maybe I couldn't even tell you what the name of it is, to be honest. I mean, I don't. It's one of those. I mean, it's a rare Beastie Boys song. Like, it's definitely not off of. I mean, it's a pretty big Beastie Boys fan. And given the time frame, the only thing that they would have had out at that point that would have been mainstream was like License to Ill.
Let's see here.
It is definitely not License to Ill, so it could be further back than that. Check Your Head, maybe. Is this it?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I think this is it.
Anybody knows Beastie Boys? I know it's definitely 80s Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
You can tell it's like
Yeah.
Rick Rubin produced
Yeah.
kind of beats.
But I did like the
Like DMC.
Is this it? This isn't it, is it?
No, this is it.
Okay.
But this never got released
Okay.
on an album, I don't think. It's almost like some bootleg.
Wow.
But it almost makes sense that he would have Mark's character would have some bootleg Beastie Boys
He is doing pirate radio.
Well, and he came from New York, and the Beastie Boys
The
were
New
straight out
York-
of
yeah.
Brooklyn. So I mean, it would kind of
That's
almost make sense.
That would make perfect sense.
Because when I
thought of
heard it,
that.
I was like, he's like the Beastie Boys, and I heard it, and I was like, because I love the Beastie Boys, like in the beginning,
right.
and I don't recognize the song at all. I was like, this is not some Beastie Boys. I bet you
Billy
can tell it's super-
Morissette was the Pauly Shore lookalike.
Billy
Morissette.
Any relation to Alanis?
That's what I
wonder?
was wondering.
There can't be that many more sets. I mean, not that's silly to say. I know
That would
but
be crazy if it was, though.
interesting. I
would be very
mean, that's
crazy.
certainly a possibility.
Yeah, it is. So, what about originality?
I mean, I thought it was pretty original for what
Yeah.
it was. I mean, it's not the first teenage angsty.
Like, it might not be the first, anti-establishment
Right.
film, but the way it's told is pretty original, I think.
No, yeah.
I don't know of another pirate radio type-esque movie like
that,
this.
that took on the establishment. So there's another movie. It might be called Pirate Radio. Actually, now that I think about it, that was I want to say it was.
There is a movie called Pirate Radio.
Aren't
I'm
they
not
out
sure.
on a ship or something?
It seems like.
but I can't remember if it was a anti-establishment.
I think it was
or
more of a comedic movie.
yeah,
like
and a
comedy.
taking on like keeping their show alive, I can't
Afloat or
remember.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it was fairly original.
No, I liked it.
And
It's-
the concept was good.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this? Why or why not?
Oh, of course. I definitely recommend it for all. I mean, there's all the reasons that we, all the things we look at in the movie and evaluate. I mean, it hits all the boxes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the if you're somebody that's our age, you may have seen this movie already. If you haven't, definitely go back. It is a super nostalgic trip. With the music, you'll recognize. You'll like.
Well, you got the music,
It's
you
like,
got
I
the
don't know,
clothing, and a couple scenes. There's the '90s car. Well, actually '89. You got the cars.
Yeah.
When he's walking across the street at this one point, I looked in the background. You got like a Petco back there.
Yeah.
and different restaurants and such. So there's so many nostalgic things that you
No,
just
sure,
mentioned.
it's totally full of. And again, the message that it's conveying is perfectly relevant. Every single one of them, to where, like, you could watch this movie. Like, if you're a parent our age, I have a 16-year-old. You could watch this movie with them. It would probably be good. I don't know. I say it'd probably be good, but then it's got that rebellion thing, and they're kind of at that age already.
right. So
Yeah, I can remember when my daughter was real young, asking the question to myself. It was when I first got on Facebook. So it was probably like 13 years ago, 14 maybe, and posing the question to myself, like, how do you teach your child to like question authority? Because I think you should,
right,
but still like listen to you as a
Right.
parent. Like
a weird
and-
dichotomy there.
Oh, I can't say that it's. I mean, it plays out. I don't know. It backfires sometimes. Sometimes I don't know. Because I mean, you got to question a little bit of authority. You can't just blind acceptance of authority.
Yeah.
Gave us like Nazis and shit like that. I suppose. Well, that's a
Sheep.
Sheep. You know what I mean? And lemmings, like right off the cliff, kind of. And so but again, that goes right to what the whole message of this movie is find your own voice.
Yep.
Don't let the establishment
Tell
put
you
you
what
in
to
a
think.
box,
Tell
which
you
is
what
the
to do.
craziness, again, of the 33-year span of time since this movie came out. In the 90s, we've mentioned it before many times on this show. The 90s, we were like dismantling labels. It's what it was about, you know what I mean? To where now, fast forward, that gay guy that had that thing, we were going to ask, is he LGBTQ? Like, what is it? Like we've created and that seems to be what happened after the 90s.
So
Like, the
many little
90s was like
boxes
this,
have been created.
But then we made this big switch, and there was this big sweep in from the system or whatever that said, no, we got to shut down this. We got to create as many boxes as humanly possible, and then we're going to give each individual box that exists a microphone and a camera, so that each little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where there's
You got
so
a
much
1,000 people
noise
on
now.
the Zoom feed.
Yeah, and there's so much noise that you can't hear anything.
Not related to Atlantis.
Huh. Okay. Well,
Oh,
if we-
Maura Tierney.
he was married to her. Maura Tierney. Oh. Well, interesting.
who starred with Andy Dick in News Radio, who
Was in whatever. Is
in-
this the Kevin Bacon game? I didn't realize we were playing. I didn't
Andy
get the
Dick
memo.
was in my movie Virginia Running. So that was my connection to Billy Morissette.
So we could, so we could totally, you could totally be you. We could play the Kevin Bacon
Yeah.
game with you as a starting point.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
be.
Interesting.
Huh.
So listeners out there, there's a game for you.
Yeah.
Tie Adam to Kevin Bacon in the least amount of steps.
Yeah. And if they do, if somebody does that, I don't know if they'll do that, but if someone does that, I will cash app them $5. I'll cash app them $5.
Cash app $5 to the person that connects Adam
Yep.
to Kevin Bacon in the least amount of steps.
I will
We,
do
we
that.
have the first step already is Andy Dick.
Yep. So you got to do it through that way.
Virginia Running.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
good luck, guys.
So I would also recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. The trouble being is they're going to, if they don't have cinema, they're going to have trouble finding it.
Yes, no, that is true.
However, it is in pieces. It's in 22 parts on YouTube.
Wow.
21 4-minute parts, and the last part is 2 minutes and a half. So it is on YouTube in those pieces if you want to watch it that way.
Wow. With commercials
Yeah.
included.
Because I thought
Damn.
at first if I couldn't find it, because I tried to do the
Yeah, a
cinema
link
thing.
to that in the comments.
Well, I tried to do it last night and I couldn't get it
You
to
still
work.
couldn't get it to work?
And I was like, well, if I thought that I would come over to watch it, but I was like, if I didn't, at least I can do this much.
Yeah.
But luckily I was able to watch it.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, check it out. Go to
it's
cinema
definitely worth checking out.
or YouTube and check out Pump Up the Volume. It's
For
worth
sure.
your time.
Absolutely.
So next week we have, what are we doing? Lost Highway.
Lost Highway next week.
And I think this weekend, I think I'm going to go down to Black Bear Barbecue and try some
Definitely
barbecue.
worth checking out some Black Bear Barbecue this
So,
weekend.
are
The
you
weather
gonna
is
be-
going to be nice.
You going to be down there this weekend?
Oh, yeah, I'm there. We open at 11.
Okay.
Close at 9. I'm there till about 2-ish.
So
Usually you're in
definitely-
good hands most of the time. But
And if you stop in, say hello and that you heard us on the show.
yeah,
and,
definitely mention that.
we'll give you a shout out. Say
Yeah,
hello
we're
to
working
you.
on we're working on some sponsorship and stuff. So we're hoping that Black Bear will continue to do some stuff with us in the future.
Yeah.
We'll help them, and because there's exciting stuff coming up over
Yeah.
the course of the next month.
Yeah. So you want to.
No, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So yeah, Casey is mentioning some exciting things. We will be broadcasting live on 92.5 WLSD
WLSD, the Vault.
coming next month. So
Yeah.
details are sketchy now, but we're going to have them worked out. So
Yeah.
by next Wednesday, we'll have the details, and we might even have a promo the following week.
Yeah, and a set date and all that. And
Yeah.
it was interesting because we laughed about it earlier because we're watching this movie about pirate radio. We know we're announcing this, on-air radio show
Yeah.
on the radio on 92.5. And his FM station in the movie was 92.
Yeah,
92 FM.
Yeah.
And so we're doing 92.5 FM.
And it said that he
And
had went on at 10 o'clock, which is when we're going on.
And our show will be 10 to 12
Yeah.
Friday nights.
Yep.
So it's exciting. It's going to be good.
And we're going to take some calls.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different format, longer
yeah.
show, 2 hours.
Yeah, and we're going to have some live audience interaction.
Yeah. Giveaways. It's it'll be a good Friday night. So we're hoping you'll spend your Friday nights with us.
Yeah, you can just sit
after
back
ball
and,
games and
have have something.
you'll
to
have
drink
music,
or-
talk. It'll be a good time. It'll be a good time.
It will.
Summer will belong to us on Friday nights
Yes,
for sure. That is
yes.
the goal.
So please be excited about that. Check out the Other People's Show on our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, soon to be TikTok.
Yeah.
And also, In Dreams is now officially submitted to the Frankenfest in Knoxville.
Frankenfest.
So there's a 12-minute version out there if you want to go check out a little shorter alternate version of In Dreams. That's up now. You don't have to, but it'd be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
All the YouTube traffic is
Yeah.
definitely appreciate it. Check it out.
So next week we have a David Lynch film, Lost Highway.
Yes.
So
This will be good. I haven't watched some David Lynch in a minute.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm kind of looking forward to it,
Yeah.
And you mentioned, what was it, Night Stalker?
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, thank
Yep.
you. That we should, that's
Yeah,
gonna be a good
so
one.
we're
too.
gonna
But yeah, so again, good shows coming up.
Yeah, we got
For
some
sure.
and
Like
we
a
have a
whole
great
lineup
show
of 'em.
for our debut show. We have a great movie lined up. for then, too.
Well, we'll tell you as it gets closer to that, but it
Yeah.
should be a good one. It's one that people are familiar with,
Yeah.
I think, and no, it's definitely a good movie worth discussing for sure.
So this has officially been the longest episode. that
Longest
we've
show,
had.
yeah. So it's a good thing we're going to a longer format.
Yeah.
Breaking records.
We are left and right. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thank
Stacy,
you.
Casey, good being with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam.
Everyone have a
Enjoyed
good
it.
night.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.
Deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows. And everybody